The Boy Scouts' motto, "Be ready," emphasized the importance of readiness. The Scout Law described the qualities that a Boy Scout should possess, including reliability, loyalty, usefulness, friendliness, politeness, kindness, obedience, cheerfulness, thrift, bravery, cleanliness, and respectfulness. But the law seemed to have a contradiction. It also spoke of naivety, stupidity, idiocy, and credulity. Nick was puzzled when he came across an email on his wife's iPhone. He usually avoided watching anything on her phone, and she was well aware of this, so she didn't bother with additional security measures. After all, he was a Boy Scout and respected people's privacy. But since his wife was leaving town soon, Nick couldn't remember the name of her hotel. He knew that she had mentioned him before, but he did not pay attention, fearing a quarrel. Their disagreements have become more frequent lately. The upcoming trip will be the longest period of their separation since the wedding, which took place 5 years ago, and Nick decided to do something romantic. For example, send flowers. He wanted to show his love for the woman he adored by sending her flowers, while she was thousands of miles away from him, in Paris, the city of love. Despite the romantic setting, he knew that her heart belonged to another person, Dwayne, who was also on the same trip. Curiosity got the better of him. Nick entered his wife's phone password, their wedding date, and discovered a series of personal emails exchanged between his wife and Dwayne. They discussed how to walk along the waterfront after dark, then take a boat ride along the beach by moonlight, and spend the whole night making passionate love. Almost as shocking as their romance was, the discovery that Nick's wife Linda and her lover Dwayne were using their work mailboxes to exchange messages. She, like Dwayne, should have been more careful. Like Nick, Linda was also a lawyer. Dwayne worked as a paralegal at the same firm as Linda. The three of them had the experience of carefully analyzing documents in major lawsuits. In such cases, large teams of lawyers searched through countless emails in search of possible clues. Usually, scandalous intrigue appeared in such cases, which forced the legal team to assess its significance for the case and develop a strategy on how to minimize any negative consequences. Nick didn't pay attention when Linda informed him about the trip and the hotel where the team was staying. His intuition told him that something was wrong, although at that moment he could not pinpoint the cause. 5 years of experience as a lawyer has honed his listening skills and made him more sensitive to deception and half-truths. When Linda first talked about the trip, Nick felt that something was wrong. She described it as a boring arbitration process that would take up all their time, leaving no opportunity to explore the sights of the city. She spoke dispassionately, avoiding eye contact. Knowing that Paris is one of Nick's favorite cities, they often discussed the possibility of visiting it together. But Linda had never been there. Nick was puzzled by her answer, as he had never imagined such a disappointing outcome. The subject of the letter he was reading now pierced his heart like a sharp dagger. "Why don't you just get rid of that Boy Scout so we can spend more time together and not worry?" Dwayne wrote this message the night before. "I feel safe with him," Linda replied. "So why are you having fun with me behind his back every chance you get? You're better in bed." Nick was confused, not knowing what to do next. All he could think of was to forward all the emails to his address and print the message exchange on a printer. In case of any doubt, his initial reaction, as an experienced lawyer, was to preserve the evidence. After printing and saving the emails and clearly realizing his intentions, he took a pause to consider the possible consequences before acting. Critical thinking was one of the key aspects of his legal profession, where intelligence was valued above physical strength. Time was running out, because Linda had gone for a run and would be back soon. Before indulging in further thoughts, he needed to complete the business he had started and find a place to live. But this place wasn't meant to be a romantic gesture. The reason why he needed this particular information eluded him, but he was sure that it was extremely important. Perhaps a suitable base would be a place next to the Eiffel Tower, somewhere within walking distance of the International Chamber of Commerce, where Linda and Dwayne were supposed to conduct arbitration proceedings with their colleagues if they could find free time for meetings unrelated to work. After finding a hotel, he quickly found information on the internet about the rules of divorce in Virginia. Although he remembered some details from the bar exam he took 5 years ago, he decided it would be wise to check them out. Adultery was cited as a reason for divorce and could affect issues such as alimony and property distribution. Nevertheless, proving adultery is also fraught with certain difficulties. One of them was the concept of connivance. If a person discovered infidelity but decided to resume an intimate relationship and live together, this can serve as her protection. He needed to leave the house urgently, without entering into any confrontations yet. He planned to surprise her later with complete shock and awe, without any unexpected problems. He was determined to take control of the situation in their marriage, even if it meant lying, which was contrary to his moral code. But he considered it a necessary strategy in this battle. After all, as Churchill said, during the war, truth is precious, and it must be protected by a shield of deception. Now the exchanger has been acquitted, especially since none of his false phrases were uttered under oath. Going into the bedroom, he hurriedly began to pack his things. In the blink of an eye, he packed everything he needed and put his suitcases at the front door. Among the important documents were bank statements, credit cards, the 401st bank account and IRA account, car documents, payment receipts, mortgage documents, and Linda's last student loan balance. When she returned from her run, he heard her in the kitchen coming out of her basement office. Wanting to look tired and disheveled, he deliberately assumed this look when he saw his wife. Her shoulder-length brown hair was tied in a ponytail, and she looked attractive. Unfortunately, he found her repulsive. He has already come to terms with the fact that there is no more love in their relationship. "I'm going to Paris," he announced with a grim smile. Linda's face turned pale, all the color drained out of it, and her once bright blue eyes began to look dull. "What?" She was gasping for breath. Her shock quickly passed after she heard, "Paris, Virginia." Nick spoke up. "Sven just called. We have to testify in the insurance case and prepare a witness. We lost the coercion case and the judge is furious. The investigation deadlines have been missed. I'll be traveling for a few weeks. Maybe I'll have the opportunity to visit you from time to time," Nick said. Linda expressed sympathy, saying, "Poor thing." Nick playfully suggested, "Maybe your company is recruiting employees." Then he added, "I'd rather work in your Paris." Linda looked worried at first, but then she smiled and said, "Send me your resume. Who knows? Maybe we will consider your proposal." It was all a joke because Linda's law firm was ahead of Nick's in the rankings. Feeling a pang of guilt, she tried to hug him, but Nick quickly dodged her and headed back to his office, leaving her standing with her arms outstretched. The visions of him hitting her in the face kept coming back, and he wasn't sure he could keep them under control. Upstairs, Linda asked about dinner plans. "I won't be able to stay for dinner. I'll grab a bite on the way. Sven is furious and wants me to leave immediately," he replied, busily pacing the kitchen. Worried, Linda walked him to the door while he packed his things. She pursed her lips for a goodbye kiss and expressed concern when he said he had a sore throat. "I may have caught a cold," he explained. "I don't want you to get sick." As he was loading the car, Linda asked, "When will you be back?" He replied, "Probably not before Friday. After Paris, we're going to Roanoke, and next week we have to go to Baltimore." He couldn't shake the feeling that he was getting more and more paranoid, and he could almost hear the gears turning in her head as she avoided his gaze. She seemed to be already considering what opportunities his absence might bring. Waving his hand, he pulled away from the driveway, hoping that she would think that he was just busy with work and annoyed that he was disturbed on Saturday. He was running out of energy for this charade, but he sensed that she was already plotting to invite Dwayne to her place. Nick drove until he got to the nearest mall where there was a cafe. Being a typical lawyer, he found clarity in writing everything down. Sipping his coffee, he began to write down the cases that required his attention. It suddenly dawned on him that he had never thought about reconciliation. For him, only retribution was on the agenda. Only the scale of the retaliation remained unclear. Suddenly the phone rang and an unfamiliar number appeared on the screen. With a note of irritation, he replied, "Yes?" The voice on the other end introduced himself as Sam Granger and explained that he had learned the number from the internet. Granger said that he specializes in buying old houses in order to demolish them and build mansions in their place. He admitted that his work does not always meet with approval, but stressed that people usually change their minds as soon as they receive a check from him. Granger's words came out quickly, leaving Nick in a daze. The cozy house did not seem old to him, so why demolish it? As his thoughts raced, he realized that Granger was really offering to buy this land. He mentioned plans for the construction of a shopping center, but admitted that the construction dates have not yet been determined. Granger stressed the importance of a quick deal to make a profit, and offered a good price if Nick and his wife agreed to sell the house. Nick suppressed a Grinch-like grin with difficulty. It was Linda who chose the house for them shortly before they tied the knot. The old ranch-style house had a stunning courtyard that bordered a forest and a bubbling stream. Despite its proximity to major highways, the house seemed secluded and peaceful. What finally captivated Linda was the charming treehouse located in the courtyard, directly opposite the window of the master bedroom. She liked that it was a ready-made house for children, and Nick was attracted by the affordable price and proximity to the subway. The convenience of a 30-minute train ride to work solved all their problems. "Mr. Granger, I will be out of town for a few days, so I may not be able to provide access to the property. Just call me Sam, and I don't need to see the inside of the house. As I said, the house is in poor condition, and I have already inspected it from the outside. Can we meet Sunday morning, Sam?" "Sure. For your information, I will most likely conduct a power of attorney transaction with my wife, since she is currently busy at work." "Good. I will provide you with the necessary form." Nick wrote down the address and began to imagine how the plan would be implemented. She trusted her Boy Scout, didn't she? Linda did not know that Lord Baden-Powell based his boy's movement on military intelligence, focusing on skills such as stealth, cunning, and self-confidence, including ambushes. She will be caught off guard because she will not see that she is being approached until it is too late. But first, it was necessary to conduct reconnaissance. To do this, he put an empty coffee cup on the table and went out to the car to have some privacy. He dialed the number on his phone. When the call was answered, so as not to waste time, he immediately got down to business. "Frank, I need a favor, and immediately," he said. Frank Barry, a private investigator, had been working in the field of corporate law for 5 years, but at the same time did not forget to provide gratuitous assistance to those who needed to resolve legal issues. This not only corresponded to his personal values of being a compassionate and responsive person, but also gave him valuable court experience that was not available in his regular job. One of the law students asked Frank to help in a difficult divorce case when his stepfather was accused of abusing his stepdaughter. Despite the lack of urgency on the part of the police, Frank's evidence eventually led to the man's release and a quick resolution of the divorce issue. Frank listened as Nick explained what he had learned. "Do you think your spouse will invite him to her bed today? Is she really that arrogant? She was one of the best students in her class at the Faculty of Law. She thinks she's incapable of making mistakes. I'll handle this myself. I owe you. Rivera's divorce case has brought me positive publicity. The phone is ringing non-stop." "Thank you, Frank." Nick expressed his gratitude. "By the way, there's a treehouse in the backyard that you might need. It has a direct view of the bedroom and she likes to leave the curtains open. It used to annoy me. To reach your destination, you need to make your way through the forest and jump over a stream under cover of darkness. There are no barriers or dogs here. There is a service road on the other side where you can park safely. Thank you. I plan to install a camera on the street aimed at the facade of the house to keep an eye on comers and goers. Excellent. Harry will handle your divorce, right? I suppose you want to get a divorce. Yes, and yes. Good. I'm aware of his interest in sworn testimony and the reporting process. If you're right, we'll find out soon enough. Then Nick called Harry. Is this about the law school reunion, Nick? I have already received 5 calls offering to donate to their foundation. No, I need to enlist your help. Linda is being dishonest, and I want to expose her. After Nick brought him up to date, Harry replied, "Come back tomorrow. I understand that today is Sunday, but I still have some business to settle in the office, so I was just about to leave." Let's act right now. You seem to understand that adultery is unacceptable. Frank provided convincing evidence of adultery. The most difficult aspect will be negotiations on a financial settlement. She is a lawyer at a large firm, so she will have the resources and support to delay the process. Nick assured him, "Leave it to me. I believe that we can handle this calmly and rationally." You won't take revenge? Okay, let's see what you can come up with. The last call was more cautious. Hello? Maggie, this is Nick. The silence on the other end of the phone was overwhelming. You're a sly fox. Glad to hear from you, dear, after all these years. What do you need, Nick? After all these years, I need your help. I thought Linda was your right-hand man. It's about Linda. She has become a traitor. I'm in shock. I can't believe it. How stupid of her. Have you noticed that all this is enclosed in quotation marks? I can't provide emotional or physical support right now. I have a relationship. I'm sure he's happy with you. I apologize for our past actions and how they affected our friendship. I'm sorry that I let Linda come between us and cut you out of my life. Now I need your help as a friend. What can I do for you, Nick? He told her everything. There was a brief silence on the line and then laughter. I agree, she finally said, still with a hint of a smile in her voice. You always knew how to make me laugh. Thank you, Maggie. When everything settles down, you will have to introduce me to Mr. Husky so that I can congratulate him on his excellent taste and invite you both to dinner. It's a date, she replied. Needing a place to hide and plan something, he checked into a hotel in Fairfax, away from the usual places where he usually went with Linda, so that he would not be noticed. After checking into the hotel, he went to have a snack. Although he was not really hungry, he understood that it was important for him to have something in his stomach that could absorb the alcohol he was about to consume. El Mariachi restaurant is located across the street from the hotel. When the waitress brought him to the table, he noticed that the bartender was watching him. But he pushed the thought away, because at the moment he had more pressing problems. Judging by the menu items, the restaurant was trying to pass itself off as Mexican, which most Americans do not recognize. He decided to accompany the meal with cheap tequila, knowing full well that the hangover the next day would be severe, but considering it a necessary part of the cleansing process. The waitress surprised him by bringing a bottle of high-quality tequila from the top shelf, indicating that the bartender had sent it as a gesture of goodwill. Nick greeted the bartender and poured himself a drink, watching as he moved on to serving other customers. Nick didn't immediately remember how he knew this bartender. He had seen him at Rivera's divorce hearing and at the criminal trial that Nick attended. The bartender always sat alone in the last row, and no one sat next to him. One day, Sonia, his client's daughter, hugged him. When I asked her who he was, she hesitated and just said he was a family friend. Nick ate in silence, making notes in a notebook and sipping tequila. When the waitress cleared away the plates, he went to the bathroom. As he walked, he swayed slightly as if he were on a ship. Leaning against the wall for support, he quickly finished and returned to the table, trying to look confident. To his surprise, he found that the bartender was sitting on the opposite side of the table. "Glad to see you, Senor Nick," he said warmly, and held out his hand for Nick to shake enthusiastically. Nick sat down at the table and waited for the bartender to say something. "I still haven't thanked you properly for helping my cousin escape this terrible marriage," the bartender said, cutting off all attempts by Nick to downplay the significance of his actions. "He was brutally attacked in prison. Did you know about this?" "Yes, I've heard about it. They believe that he will never be able to walk or eat properly again." There was a slight smirk on the bartender's lips when he told Nick about it. Nick flinched as he met the bartender's gaze. "I didn't hear that," Nick replied. The bartender just shrugged his shoulders. "Old news," he said. "What brought you to El Mariachi alone on Saturday night? Where is your beautiful wife?" Nick stared at the bartender, who was still smiling. The smile on the bartender's face was not mocking, but rather knowing. Nick was puzzled by this strange question, and he wondered how the bartender knew that he was married. Then it dawned on him that Linda had surprised him by attending one of his hearings and kissing him afterwards. The bartender must have seen it all from the courtroom. "We have some problems with her," Nick admitted, seeing no reason to cheat or hide information. "Does she like talking to someone else?" The familiar smile flashed again. Nick was stunned and speechless. "I may not be a lawyer, Don Nicholas, but I know that if you want to keep a secret, you shouldn't write it down and leave the paper in plain sight," the bartender remarked, gesturing at Nick's notebook. The notebook described in detail the elements of adultery, sketches depicting a violent attack against Dwayne, Linda's name circled with a slash, and a to-do list with the chilling phrase, "Burn this cheater." Nick shrugged, acknowledging the low level of operational security but not compromising confidential customer data. In his current predicament, he was thinking about what he really needed. "Senor Nick, what would you want more than anything in the world besides money if you had the opportunity to take revenge?" Without hesitation, Nick answered, "I want to deliver a crushing blow to break her nose and darken both eyes. She has an amazing face with expressive eyes. I want to ruin them." The bartender laughed and shook his head. "My friend, you're not thinking straight. Those who seek revenge in such a cruel way often end up behind bars, and you don't want to go to jail unless it happens during a visit to your clients. Isn't that right?" The bartender gave Nick a sly look before he spoke. Nick nodded his thanks. "Maybe I can help you with something," he suggested. "You were by my cousin's side when she needed help. She could have contacted me, but for unknown reasons she didn't. You stepped in and helped her deal with the situation." Nick tried to intervene, explaining that he had just asked a friend to collect evidence and let the police do the rest. "I also contacted a former assistant United States attorney from my firm to talk to the prosecutor and make sure that the criminal case is being handled correctly." Nick arrived with his client to make sure that the prosecutor was showing her the proper respect. Divorce was a simple matter after her husband's sentencing. Despite Nick's protests, the bartender brushed aside his concerns and said, "Helping simple people like my cousin is a noble thing in itself. My family owes you a debt, and I always repay the debts. I think you could use some help." Nick stared at him. "I'm sorry, but I can't remember your name." The bartender's smile turned into a sinister grin. "Some people know me as El Diablo." "The devil?" Nick asked. The bartender confirmed this with a nod. "That's what my enemies call me. For friends, I'm Jose Garcia." Nick smiled back. "What should I do to get mercy from the devil? Maybe I should sell my soul." El Diablo's grin faded. No one was smiling. "Be serious. You're a lawyer. You don't have a soul." The smile returned, and Nick realized he was joking. "Call it professional courtesy, Senor Nick. Now just tell me your address, your wife's name, and her daily routine. What are your plans?" I have a few ideas, but how do you like it? Ignorance is bliss. I think it's better to be in the dark and be able to report your location in the coming months. Buy a disposable phone so we can communicate and leave a number at this bar. After that, it's better if you don't come back here. It's better this way. Nick told El Diablo about his decision to hire a private investigator, about his intention to lie low until Linda left for France, and about the details of Linda's upcoming trip. El Diablo mentioned that he was familiar with one of the Paris hotels, but the source of his knowledge remained a mystery. Before parting, El Diablo asked Nick an important question. Is there any hope for reconciliation, forgiveness, or mercy in this situation? He made it clear that he didn't want Nick to change his mind later. When El Diablo looked straight into Nick's eyes, his smile faded, indicating the seriousness of the conversation. When he met Nick's gaze, his demeanor changed to serious. Taking a deep breath and reevaluating his emotions, Nick found clarity in his simple beliefs about trust and loyalty, which were the cornerstones of his character. These values eventually led to the destruction of his marriage. El Diablo leaned back in his chair, feeling calm. Relax, don't worry about anything, he reassured himself. When the waitress handed him the bill, El Diablo waved her away but asked Nick to tip generously. He also allowed Nick to take a bottle of tequila, warning him to take his time. A clear mind was necessary for the upcoming battle. Surprisingly, Nick woke up Sunday morning without much of a hangover and got to Harry's law office by 10 a.m. Frank was already there and apologetically said, "Sorry, Nick. She definitely slept with that guy in your bed. He was there 2 hours after you called me, and he was still there when I left this morning. We have a high-quality video recording. I made you a copy, but you might not want to watch it." Harry intervened, warning, "Don't watch it. I don't want you to do something rash and get into trouble." Nick calmed him down by saying, "Don't worry, just tell me everything in detail. I followed your instructions and went up to the treehouse. Inside, I saw them huddled together and took clear pictures of their faces and bodies. It was obvious that they were making love, hardly talking to each other. It seems like it was a purely physical connection. I'm not sure if this information will affect your plans. They held out for a while, showing great endurance. I apologize for any possible discomfort you may have experienced. I know Linda from the party you hosted last year, so I can confirm that this is her. We checked this guy's license plates, and they belong to Wayne Martin. We know he's working with her. We are not sure about the duration of their relationship, but the evidence we have gathered seems quite convincing. In addition, we have a camera mounted on a nearby tree that records the actions in the driveway and in the garage, which allows us to monitor their movements. I will send you an email with a link to access the live broadcast on our secure server. After talking to Harry, I will prepare a report and a supporting affidavit for him. Sorry, dude, Frank said, and shook hands with Harry and Nick before leaving the office. So, what's the plan? Harry asked. File for divorce on the grounds of adultery, but we won't file today, Nick replied. Harry looked at Nick with a blank expression on his face. Trust me, Harry, these words alone make me feel sick. I don't want you to do anything rash. I foresee that everything will go much better than expected. Harry smiled grimly. Just file this on Monday afternoon before the court closes and give me the case number. I'll take care of the rest, Nick instructed. But remember, I'm not good at criminal law. If you need help to get out of trouble, I can't help you. You'll be pleasantly surprised, Nick added before leaving. After meeting Sam Granger, Nick was thrilled with the news that they would be able to sell the house for more than $100,000 and without commission to the real estate agent. Linda would be thrilled if she found out about it. Nick promised that he would return soon with the necessary documents to complete the transaction. After leaving Sam's office, he checked his phone, but found no messages or calls. She still seemed to be enjoying her time with Dwayne. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Nick called his boss Sven and informed him that he urgently needed a 2-week vacation, otherwise he would quit. Sven was taken aback and quickly agreed, realizing that Nick was very important for the current job. Fortunately for Sven, the business was experiencing a temporary downturn, which allowed him to satisfy Nick's request. Having put his plan into action, Nick headed back to the hotel to attend to the remaining work chores. By Monday evening, everything was ready. Linda left voicemails on both Sunday and Monday evening, but received no reply. Nick concentrated on saving his strength for Thursday morning. With the help of Frank's camera, Nick was able to verify that Dwayne had indeed spent Monday night there. Knowing that Dwayne usually leaves around 8 in the morning, Nick planned to arrive at 7. Just as Linda was about to leave at 8:30 a.m., Nick came into the house and shouted, "I'm home!" Linda was coming down the stairs in a bathrobe, looking disheveled and surprised. "What a surprise!" she exclaimed with mock cheerfulness, although there was clearly panic in her voice. "I thought you weren't coming until Friday. I tried to call you, but I didn't get an answer." Nick replied casually, "I'm sorry, but you know how it is." Nick ignored the 2 glasses of wine left in the living room and headed for the dining room. Linda watched him, wondering how to stop him from finding Dwayne upstairs. A knock on the door caught her off guard, and Nick asked her to open it. While Linda nervously opened the door, Nick fiddled with papers on the dining room table, pretending not to notice her agitation, perhaps waiting for the bailiff to arrive with the divorce papers. As soon as Linda opened the door, Maggie came into the house and just greeted her. Linda watched with interest as Maggie settled down at the dining table and unpacked her suitcase. "I'm sorry, dear," Nick explained, "but I'm not sure when I'll be back on the air. And considering your upcoming trip abroad, we should probably update your power of attorney. In case of unforeseen financial or medical situations, it is useful to be prepared. Also, over the weekend, I found out about the favorable refinancing rate for my mortgage, and decided it was better to take care of it while we both travel." "Sorry for the urgency," he apologized. Linda turned to Maggie and asked, "Who is this?" when the artery in her temple stopped throbbing furiously. "I'm Maggie," she replied. Nick explained that Maggie was a notary public, and Linda visibly relaxed when she heard the news. Although her lover was still hiding upstairs, the situation hadn't gotten out of control yet. "Are you always ready, my Boy Scout?" "For what?" "What is it?" he asked with a grin, sitting down, although her eyes remained wary. "I am who I am, honey," he replied, holding out his hand to Linda and spreading out the papers in front of her. "The arrow flags indicate where to put the signature. Take your time and read the documents. I trust you," Linda said cheerfully, and quickly signed all the papers in front of her. Nick silently prayed that she would do everything to the end, knowing what the consequences might be otherwise. But he remembered the saying, "Who takes risks wins." While Linda signed, Nick spread out the papers and handed them to Maggie, who notarized each one. "Mrs. Buford, do you have a photo ID?" Maggie asked. Linda got up from the table to get her purse. Maggie and Nick exchanged a knowing look, suppressing the urge to laugh as Linda put her driver's license on the table. Maggie discreetly photographed them on her phone and wrote down the necessary data in her notary journal. Despite Linda's offer of coffee, Nick and Maggie politely declined. While Maggie diligently certified the documents in her journal, Nick put everything in separate folders. When Maggie left, she put all her things away and smiled at Nick when Linda turned her back on her. Nick kindly offered Linda a break, saying that he had a conference call and would be working in his office in the basement. Linda was relieved to realize that now she had time to discreetly help Dwayne leave and remove all evidence of his presence before Nick returned. Nick went downstairs, allowing Linda to believe that she had managed to deceive him. Ignoring Dwayne's heavy footsteps on the stairs and the garage door opening for her car, he pretended not to notice anything. But the sound of the shower running in the main bathroom made Nick quickly pack up all his things, leave through the door to the basement, and leave without saying a word to his wife. 2 hours later, after a hearty breakfast at the diner, Nick found himself in Harry's office. Harry was visibly taken aback. "Wait, so you're saying that you forced your wife to sign a 1,406th-year form confirming the filing of a divorce application, refusal to serve procedural documents, and notification of any future proceedings?" "How exactly? What is it?" he asked in disbelief. "Yes, the certified form is here." Harry's shock only intensified. "You also forced your wife, an experienced lawyer, to sign a property settlement agreement, according to which all proceeds from the sale of their house, car, and jewelry went to you. An agreement that gave you the right to dispose of her personal belongings and allowed you both to leave with retirement accounts, without any alimony for her. She still earned more than me. These documents also indicate that she is ready to get out of the marriage, having about $125,000 of her retirement savings and about $200,000 of student loan debt received at law school. Is it true? She has always been known for her generous nature." Harry cast a sidelong glance at Nick, and then returned his attention to the papers scattered on his desk. "So you forced her to sign an affidavit, confessing to adultery with her lover in the marital bedroom at the time of signing and staying there all night after their meeting?" Harry asked incredulously. "Are you seriously trying to convince me that her affidavit confirms the accuracy of the statement in the email? What are you trying to tell me?" "A lawyer," Nick asked with a neutral expression. "Please don't disrespect me. The evidence in these documents speaks for itself." Harry looked at the papers, then back at Nick, almost smiled, but then pulled himself together and turned away. "Forget about it. I'll take over this case. As a respected member of the Bar Association and a friend from law school, I was unaware of all your actions. I thought it was all right, Your Honor. I am genuinely perplexed about the betrayal of trust on the part of my client. If anyone deserves to have their license revoked, it's Nicholas A. Buford S. Gins, Your Honor. Do you understand what I'm getting at, Nick? Will this notary be able to confirm that Linda signed all this, if necessary?" "Yes, she will be able to do it." "Do you think she'll confirm that Linda has studied the documents carefully?" "I don't want to speculate or distort anyone's testimony, but given Linda's experience as a trial lawyer, I believe she has carefully studied the documents. The notary will most likely confirm that he saw Linda Buford looking through the documents and signing each of them. I cannot comment on the extent to which she understands the contents of the documents." "All right," said Harry. "Today I will record all this, along with Frank's affidavit and report, with photos and on DVD. I will try to remove this from the electronic file for a while. We don't want this to make headlines, do we?" Nick agreed, adding that Linda was leaving for Paris in a little over 2 weeks, so the longer we kept it a secret, the better. Harry asked if anyone knew anyone in the district court and mentioned Seth, a student who graduated from university a year later than them and was trying to find a job at a law firm. He currently works as a clerk in the district court and is focused on writing a resume. He can speed up the process, but if the judge demands live testimony, the situation may become insurmountable. Linda will have to accept that she may not want to continue the case if she understands its consequences. If things don't go well at this stage, I may have to give up my position as your lawyer. It seems reasonable. Someday in the future, you will be able to share the whole story with me, but I'm not ready to listen to her right now." Over the next 2 weeks, Nick successfully kept Linda at a distance. He sent her messages at random times, claiming to be busy, and only occasionally answered her calls. The calls became less frequent every day. "You really scared her," Frank informed him by the end of the week. "Our videos show that Dwayne hasn't been in the house since you showed up unexpectedly on Tuesday morning." "I do not know if they meet at his house during the week or make love in the office, but they do not do this at home. I'll let you know if anything changes." The only thing that changed was that Nick quietly returned to the house after he found out that Linda had left and took away the financial documents that he thought he might need. In addition, he signed a contract for the sale of the house with Sam Granger. The completion of the deal was scheduled for the first week of Linda's stay in France. Nick spent his evenings at the gym, and in his spare time he read, reflecting on his chaotic life at the age of 30. He informed Sven that he needed a few more weeks of rest, to which Sven hesitantly agreed. "She's enjoying his company at home again," Frank said on Saturday, just a week before Linda left for Paris. "Thanks for the warning," Nick replied, indifferent, but already thinking about burning the sheets rather than selling them when he eventually leaves the house. Nick had already watched the video that Frank had given him earlier. He understood what attracted her to him. Dwayne, who according to Frank was several years younger, often went to the gym. He always started with a warm-up in front of the mirror and then took up the barbell. Otherwise, he looked completely normal. Nick was in pretty good shape too, although he definitely didn't have a six-pack abs. Linda was clearly striving for perfection, much to Nick's chagrin. Without hesitation, Linda went on a long-awaited trip to Paris. One of Frank's team members followed her to the airport unnoticed and stayed there until her plane took off for Europe. After hearing the news, Nick returned to the house, gathered all of Linda's things in a pile in the living room, and chose what he would like to leave. The next day, movers arrived to pack Linda's things into boxes and transport them to the warehouse, and they packed Nick's things separately and transported them to the apartment they found. Thanks to demolition specialist Sam Granger, Nick was able to quickly sell furniture from the house. When the house was cleared, Nick finally walked through the empty rooms. He collected the wedding photos, the album, and Linda's wedding dress, and took them to the bonfire in the yard under the treehouse. With meticulous care, Nick laid out the photos and album on the coals, added a dress and splashed liquid for ignition, and then lit a match. He watched as new photos were added to the stack, and clearly saw unforgettable memories of their life together. The next day, Nick issued a power of attorney for the sale of the family home, allowing his wife to sign it on his behalf. She really should have read everything she signed. Having issued a separate financial power of attorney, Nick was able to put the proceeds from the sale of the house into his personal account, acting on behalf of his wife as her de facto representative. It also allowed him to close their joint accounts. Unfortunately, just 3 days later, when Linda was still at the very beginning of her trip to France, a construction crew demolished their house. The rubble was cleared within a few days, and work began on the preparation of a new site. But the tree, which provided shade and was an ideal place for children, had to be removed. A gazebo was put in a new place, and Nick and Linda's once happy house turned into just a large square of land. Construction suddenly stopped because there was a problem with obtaining a permit. Nick and his friend from law school, who worked in the district permits department, were optimistic, believing that the issue would be resolved soon after Linda's return from France, when the necessary forms would be processed and approved. Throughout this time, Nick deliberately ignored all of Linda's attempts to contact him. He did not respond to her calls, texts, emails, and voicemail. When friends and family contacted him on behalf of Linda, Nick simply replied with a short message, claiming that he was busy and on a business trip to avoid unwanted guests. El Diablo contacted him on a prepaid mobile phone. He mentioned that Linda and Dwayne looked tense and unwell, hinting that maybe Linda suspected something was wrong. When Nick asked how he knew this, El Diablo simply said that he had connections everywhere, even in Europe. El Diablo then asked Nick if he was ready to return Linda's wedding and engagement rings. Nick refused, and El Diablo suggested that someone else buy them instead. Nick flatly refused, but El Diablo mentioned that he might know a potential buyer of the rings. On Wednesday, just 2 days before Linda returned from Paris, Nick found himself in Harry's office. "I can't believe it, but here's the divorce decision," he said, handing over the document. Seth, who was also present, remained silent. "I don't want to know the details," Nick quickly added. "Just consider yourself lucky and congratulate yourself on being single again." Harry then announced that he would send the final version of the document to Nick's ex-wife, expressing confidence that she would be pleased with the result. As Nick was heading to his car outside Harry's office, his phone rang. Although he did not recognize the number, he immediately realized from the distinctive voice on the other end that it was El Diablo. "Nick, you need to rest. Leave right now. Go to a place where there are many people who know you and can confirm your location," El Diablo advised, and abruptly interrupted the conversation. Nick suddenly realized that it had been 100 years since he had seen his college buddies who lived in New York. Fortunately, he didn't have any commitments in the coming days, which allowed him to go on a spontaneous trip. On the same day, he visited many exhibitions, visited several museums, and chatted with different groups of friends over food and drinks, using mainly his credit card for payment. He always left generous tips at the hotel, wanting to be recognized by the staff. During his stay at the hotel, he immediately sent a copy of the DVD, which shows him burning his ex-wife's wedding dress and album, to her parents by express mail. Late Sunday night in Manhattan's Little Italy, Nick got a call from his father-in-law while he was enjoying coffee and cakes. "Nick, where are you? Linda is going crazy. She's in the hospital," his father-in-law exclaimed. Nick asked what happened. His father-in-law explained that Linda returned from a trip on Friday and was abducted along with her colleague at the airport. They were found under the influence of illegal substances and released only this morning. Linda's colleague was severely beaten. Nick's father-in-law's voice trembled as he talked about how Linda, whom Nick would once have shown compassion for, found herself in such a difficult situation. Linda woke up to a shocking discovery. She was completely covered in tattoos with disturbing inscriptions. Before she could figure out what was going on, a masked man entered the room and attacked her. Impressive, Nick thought. In fact, it was the cherry on the cake on Sunday. He would have found satisfaction in the fact that Linda understood his betrayal, as well as the fact that she betrayed him in their marriage. It would be worth an immortal soul if he had one. "I'm sorry to hear that. I'm away now. How can I help you?" Nick felt the shock in the other's voice. "You're her husband. She is your wife." "I'm sorry, but that's not the case anymore. We finalized the divorce and the court's decision was made only last week. She's having an affair with a man she's traveling with." "What? What's going on here?" Nick realized that he had been harsh, but he didn't care. "I have a video recording of her intimacy with someone else, not with me. Would you like to see it?" There was silence on the other end of the line. Nick wondered if his father-in-law had had a heart attack. "We broke up with her, so you'll have to take her home. It doesn't concern me anymore." "Did you do that?" his father-in-law shouted. "I've been in New York since Wednesday celebrating my divorce. Look, I know you're upset, and I hope Linda gets better soon, but I don't think we have anything to talk about." With that, he hung up the phone. At that moment, Nick realized that the stress of city life had become unbearable. He wrote Sven a letter expressing his disappointment, and in the end, with all due respect, told Sven and the firm to go to hell. After a short search on the internet, Nick found the REI store in Soho and decided to buy new equipment for hiking and camping. Linda, who had never been a fan of hiking, saw this as an opportunity to reconnect with her past related to working in intelligence. The hotel kindly agreed to keep his luggage for a small fee, allowing him to travel to the Adirondack Mountains to find solace in nature until things calmed down. He took his passport with him in case he had the opportunity to leave for Canada. For the next 8 weeks, he barely paid attention to his phone. At first, he suspected that some abnormal woman had taken his ex-wife's phone because there were many messages, perhaps hundreds, filled with seemingly frantic pleas and tears. He listened to only a few and deleted the rest along with a bunch of crazy emails. Her account must have been hacked. It seemed impossible to find the time to read it all. He hoped that the woman would ask for the help she needed. 8 weeks later, Nick met Frank for a drink and Harry joined them. Harry explained that their relationship with the lawyer ended as soon as the decision to divorce was made, which he notified Nick by registered mail. Nick admitted that he hadn't checked his email yet. "It's a big storm, my friend," Harry remarked. "What do you think, Frank? More like a typhoon, don't you think?" Frank nodded in agreement. "Definitely. The destruction is incredible." Harry quickly finished his bourbon and signaled for another one. "Go on, Frank," he said. On Monday morning, the former Mrs. Buford arrived at her former home with her parents. The external camera, forgotten in the chaos, remained in place. When she saw the empty lot where her house once stood, she was overwhelmed by emotions, and she had a complete breakdown. Falling to her knees, she began to sob uncontrollably, curled up in a ball. Her breakdown intensified. She kicked and screamed like a child who had caused a scandal at the mall. The appearance of a team of workers with equipment only spurred her rampage. Her composure was shaken again when the construction workers noticed the tattoo on her face and burst out laughing. Despite the signs of physical violence, raccoon eyes, and a patch on her broken nose, she couldn't control herself. Harry intervened to continue the story. In the afternoon, she arrived at my small office with several lawyers from her prestigious firm, who looked very intimidating. Since they didn't have an appointment, I made them wait 25 minutes. I discreetly made sure that my Glock was loaded and lay within reach on my desk. Fortunately, we were in Virginia. When they finally entered, they were all shouting about urgent petitions, lawyer complaints, and contempt proceedings. It was hard for me to focus on their words, as well as look away from the tattoos covering her face. The text was clearly highlighted in red and blue ink, so that it could be seen from afar. As soon as I got my attention back, I asked what exactly it was about and which statement was not true. There was silence, and everyone exchanged glances. Then I asked if there was any disagreement about your ex-wife's accusation of adultery, to which everyone confirmed. While they were waiting, I turned on a video I had prepared, which showed Linda in the marital bed bouncing on someone who was not her husband. It was obvious that they had not yet read all the case files. Confusion was reflected on their faces when Linda began to shout that she had not been given the opportunity to explain herself. I told her the reason didn't matter. She did it anyway. Finally, she calmed down and admitted that she had not consented to the sale of the house and asked why her wedding dress, photos, and album were burned. All these things belonged to her personally. I gave her copies of the power of attorney, one of which authorized the sale of the house. I also showed her the property sharing agreement, which gave you the right to dispose of her personal property as you see fit, and mentioned that she was lucky to have clothes left. I asked if she disputed that the signature on the documents belonged to her. She replied in the negative, but stated that she did not agree with the contents of the documents. Then I asked if her defense was based on the fact that she never checked what she was signing. I asked her to think about how she would behave under cross-examination if she challenged any details in court. After my remarks, she fell silent. In addition, I raised the issue of her signed affidavit, which stated that her lover was present upstairs during the signing. I asked about the authenticity of this statement. At the moment when she lost consciousness, her group was trying to revive her, and I quickly dialed the emergency number. Despite their efforts, she stubbornly refused to go to the hospital. Suddenly, she started screaming about tattoos and that her lover had been attacked. I assured her that the situation had nothing to do with you, especially since you were out of town. Most likely Dwayne angered someone, perhaps a jealous spouse or a woman who felt threatened by Linda's relationship with him. I've informed them so they know the location of the Fairfax Police Department in case they need to discuss a criminal case. Harry then noted that the situation had taken a positive turn as they continued to discuss filing a motion for reconsideration. At this point, I mentioned that I received an anonymous letter this morning containing links to videos of Linda and Dwayne lying in bed together before going to Paris. The message contained a threat to send the video to all of Linda's contacts, claiming that Nick did not know about it and could not prevent it. The sender mentioned friends whom Nick had helped before, promised protection, but warned of imminent actions if Linda did not back down. Do you have any information about this? I wasn't at home when it happened. They left and I haven't heard from them since, and nothing has happened at the courthouse. Frank continued. Most likely they contacted the police and a couple of detectives arrived at the scene. They requested copies of the videos and the report but soon lost interest in them. Linda and Dwayne couldn't provide much information about what happened. All they knew was that they took a taxi from the airport, and the next thing Dwayne remembered was that he woke up in the hospital. Linda ended up in a rundown hotel, was attacked, and then went to the hospital. Her credit card was charged for the room service and minibar. Nick informed him that the hotel manager mentioned that the NYPD had checked his stay at the hotel and contacted his friends, who confirmed that he had a very active work schedule in the city. Harry assumed that his ex was rumored to be hiding in her parents' basement, where she was getting laser tattoo removal. The problem is that they charge depending on the size of the tattoo that covers her entire body. It will cost a considerable amount and the traces will remain forever. It's sad, Nick said. Harry looked at Nick, and Frank stifled a laugh. What's more important than a lover? Harry asked. I heard that he suffered serious injuries, and he will need long-term physical therapy. He has several concussions and a damaged head. It will probably be difficult for him to find a new job as a paralegal, since their firm fired them too. Apparently, their relationship soured during the trip, which eventually had a negative impact on the arbitration proceedings. Due to insufficient preparation, in particular the lack of documents and objections, as well as problems with witnesses, they eventually lost the case. This led to the fact that the client was dissatisfied and the company was forced to make personnel changes in order to retain the client for future projects. Someday, Nick, you're going to have to tell us how you handled this situation, Frank remarked. I'm a Boy Scout, Nick replied. Maggie was waiting for him in the car when he got out. I'm a little worried. No one asked if I checked the documents and if she read them before signing, Nick said. I was ready to confirm that I watched her study each of them before signing, but I couldn't determine how much time she spent on it. Let's discuss this over dinner. I want to express my gratitude that you helped me find freedom by treating you and your boyfriend. Maggie glanced at Nick as he pulled the car out of the parking lot. There's no boyfriend, you idiot, she said. Nick suddenly stopped the car and stared at her. Really? Yes, it's true. Now shut up and take me home so you can start correcting your mistake, Maggie replied. Okay, Nick said with a smile. But first I need to go to the post office. Why? I sent a postcard to an old friend, taking it out of the glove compartment. On the front of the postcard was the Boy Scouts logo. I asked her if she felt safe right now. I recently found out that my wife is having an affair with Josh, my former best friend. They don't suspect that I know about their betrayal. This may seem like a cliché, but unfortunately, it often happens. It's hard for me to come to terms with this situation. I can't understand why Josh chose my wife over his. Of course, my wife is very beautiful at 30, even after having 2 children. But Josh's wife, Carla, is no less, if not more attractive. Carla is a tall woman. Her height reaches 5 feet 7 inches. Her bright red hair cascades down to the middle of her back, and her piercing green eyes are able to look into the very soul. When I found out her size 36, 23, 34, I couldn't help but be intrigued by her. But after learning about Joshua and Heather's situation, I found myself at a dead end for several weeks, not knowing what steps to take next. I adored Heather and doubted if there was any chance of saving our marriage. Everything seemed bleak, but I couldn't be sure until we talked. I was planning to meet her on Friday, but I had to reschedule the meeting for Monday. Why is there such a delay? Heather got a call from a sick friend who needed help, and she rushed to his aid. I was sure that if I contacted Josh and asked him to play golf on Saturday, Carla would tell me that he was out of town for the weekend. My parents took the children to their house by the lake, leaving me alone for the weekend, without my wife and children. I knew this could be the last quiet weekend for a while. On the way home, I stopped by for a case of beer, deciding to finish all 24 bottles by Sunday evening. I quickly changed into shorts and a t-shirt and went to the kitchen. Tonight's dinner will be simple. I took a pack of hot dogs and put them in a pot to cook, sliced an onion and took out a jar of baked beans from the pantry. After pouring the beans into a saucepan and putting it on the stove, I opened a second can of beer. While I was looking for mustard in the refrigerator, the doorbell suddenly rang. When I opened the door, I saw Carla standing in a braless t-shirt and slippers. The tight t-shirt emphasized her elastic curves, causing a surge of desire in me. "Are you busy?" "What is it?" she asked. "Partially. I'm cooking dinner and enjoying a beer," I replied. "Do you mind if I join you?" I greeted her, thanking her for the company. I led her into the kitchen and sat her down at the table. Knowing that she doesn't drink beer, I took out a bottle of Merlot and poured her a glass. I said, "There's nothing special for dinner, just hot dogs and baked beans. It's very simple." The hot dogs were already boiling and the beans were bubbling. I turned off the heat, moved the pots to the colder side of the stove, and took 2 plates out of the cupboard. Handing one of them to Carla, she made herself 2 hot dogs and poured beans into a plate. We sat down to eat, and I asked, "What brings you here? Do you know where Heather is?" "Heather went to help a sick friend." "I wonder when it happened." "It's Josh who's sick. He looked perfectly healthy when he left home." "You know Josh and Heather are cheating on us, right? They are currently in room 130 at Arrowhead Lodge." "I am not sure of their whereabouts, but I have suspected for several weeks that she is betraying me." "And how did you find out?" "I found a contraceptive wrapper in his pants pocket when I was doing the laundry. We are trying to conceive a child and do not use any means of protection. But knowing about his infidelity, I decided not to have a child with him. I didn't want to be a single mother in the event of a divorce, so I used part of the inheritance I received from my father to hire a private investigator. They often have lunch together, and when he claims to be late at work, he usually spends time with Heather." "How do you know that?" "I was in the basement and I was working on a bookcase that I'm putting together now. The phone rang, and as I was picking up the receiver in the basement, I heard Heather say the word beloved just as I put the phone to my ear, which meant that she answered the call on the second floor shortly before me. I kept calm while Josh explained that because of an important meeting, they would have to skip their usual long lunch at the Marriott. I heard her express her disappointment and mention that next time he would have to work hard to make it up to her. I was silent, not knowing what to do next. In the end, I decided to talk to her when she got home and see how things would develop. I was puzzled by her question. "What are you going to do?" "What is it?" she asked. After a few moments, I received an answer. Getting up and coming to me, she sat on my lap and explained, "I see the way you look at me. If we weren't married, you'd be stalking me. Although we were still married, we no longer have to be faithful to our spouses, Josh and Heather, who released us from these obligations." She hugged me tightly, making me want to. After correcting the situation, I looked at her in surprise. Bending down, she met my lips in a passionate kiss. Pulling away from me, Carla said, "I will take revenge until the end. Despite our decision to start a family, I found ways to avoid intimacy during pregnancy, even going so far as to buy a protective diaphragm from a doctor. How badly do you want to get back at Josh? I asked. I plan to take full revenge, she replied decisively. I'm currently at the peak of fertility and I carry a diaphragm with me in my purse. The situation turned out exactly as Carla had predicted. If Josh had raised my child as his own, it would have been the perfect revenge. I couldn't help but smile at the thought. When I touched Carla, I realized that she was not wearing underwear. She let out a groan and whispered, "Oh, yes." I broke the kiss and whispered, "I want you to lie down on Heather's bed." Carla got up from my lap and beckoned me to follow her. Hurriedly undressing, we both went to the bedroom. Carla, completely naked, looked amazing. She had a feature that I had never seen before, except in magazines. She was completely hairless. I've already talked about how beautiful Heather is, but I couldn't understand why Josh decided to be with my wife when he has someone like Carla. Carla seemed to be thinking the same thing too. She looked at my naked body in confusion, and when I asked her about her thoughts, she simply replied, "I just can't understand it. Your manhood is much more impressive than Josh's, so why does Heather need my husband if she has you and your impressive dignity at home ready and waiting? I can't understand it." It doesn't matter, you're here now, and at that moment, no one else exists. You're absolutely right. Take me to the bedroom and make love to me. I made a gesture towards Heather, and Carla, grinning, suggested that we switch positions. She'll be on Heather's side first, and then I'll be on the other side. We agreed. Carla lay down on the bed and demanded passionate intimacy. I fulfilled her wish. Our movements became a mirror image of two wild animals in a fit of passion. She begged me never to stop and to continue indefinitely. Her words lit a fire in me, and I was ready to do anything for her. We reached the top together, and it was truly magical. Sweat glistened on our skin as I collapsed onto the bed next to her. Carla propped herself up on her elbow and looked at me in disbelief. "I can't believe it," she whispered. "Heather can have you, but she needs my husband. You and I have the whole evening, the whole of tomorrow, and part of Sunday at our disposal. And when we're done, you won't care if Heather comes back." After a little rest, we continued the second round of our game, which turned out to be no less exciting than the first. Carla asked, "You're not going to send me home, are you?" In response, I pulled her closer to me and called her a stupid girl. We eventually fell asleep in each other's arms. The next morning I woke up before Carla and, looking at her, I couldn't help but think that my relationship with Josh's wife had put me on the same level as Heather. Perhaps Heather's betrayal freed me from my own obligations. If she could do it, then why can't I? What is true for one must be true for all, right? The most important thing for me was that I was unfaithful in my marriage. I couldn't pretend to be moral in my quarrel with Heather. She may not have known about my infidelity, but I was fully aware of it. I didn't know Carla was awake until she asked me what was on my mind. I confessed my thoughts to her. In response, she confessed, "I made the same commitment that you made when you married Josh. That probably makes me a liar, but I don't believe it's true. Josh made the same promises as me and then reneged on them. For me, this means that there was an agreement between Josh and me, and if we had applied legal principles, Josh would have been found to be in breach of contract. According to my understanding of business law, such a violation can lead to the contract becoming invalid. Although I admit that marriage is not usually treated this way, it is undeniable that Josh and I had an agreement that he did not fulfill. This, in my opinion, frees me from the obligation to comply with the terms of the contract. It may be useful for you to approach marriage with the same attitude. Honesty and loyalty are the most important aspects of any relationship. Let's get off the subject. Let's have a bite to eat and then come to my place to rededicate the side of the bed where Josh used to sleep and focus on conceiving a child. She started to turn me on, and we quickly left. If she hadn't gotten pregnant by the time we went to bed at her house, it wasn't for lack of effort. The next morning, she asked when the children would be back, and I told her it was about 6. She served me steak and scrambled eggs for breakfast, saying that I would need energy for what I had planned for her that day. We said goodbye around 4, so that I could get home in time if my parents arrived earlier. Before leaving, Carla asked if I had made a decision, to which I admitted that I had not. "Can you act like everything is fine?" I'm not sure, but Carla decided the best revenge was to keep doing what we did over the weekend. I want to keep trying until I get pregnant. Besides, you need to think about the kids. If you get divorced, the court will most likely give them to their mother. Maybe you can only see them on weekends, and even then Heather will find ways to separate you. I suggest that you put up with it and continue to live normally, but at the same time, make passionate love to me whenever possible. I doubt it, Carla. If we get caught, our ability to succeed in conflicts will be severely undermined. They were caught because of their own careless mistakes. The revelations about Heather became known because they foolishly used home phones to communicate. I found out about this because Josh was careless enough to bring incriminating evidence home in his pants pocket. We cannot afford to make the same mistakes. We will be buying disposable phones at Walmart to stay in touch and prevent our partners from accidentally revealing our correspondence. We will keep them with us so that we always know when they have meetings, and we will try to meet at the same time. But this may not be possible if Heather is late at work and I have to babysit, or if they make an appointment for lunchtime at which I can rarely take a long break. Do you sometimes stay late at work too? If so, she will have to be at home to look after the children. And I play cards with my college friends every Wednesday night, and sometimes have a drink with my colleagues after work. Josh is already used to this routine. One option is to access our phone lines to monitor their conversations. Are you ready? It looks like you've considered all the possible options. If we cooperate, we can ensure the safety of all parties. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I'm completely sure. From the very beginning, I was determined to get back at Josh. I gave him all my strength, and he betrayed me. I treated him well, and he cheated on me. There's no way I'm going to let this go unpunished. My ultimate revenge would be to force him to unknowingly raise someone else's child. And what could be more pleasant than to see in your bed the real father of the child, the husband of the woman with whom he is having an affair? And I also want revenge. I think I can get revenge by watching this jerk raise my child, but I'm not sure I can pretend that I love a wife who betrays me. You feel satisfied with your lover, don't you? It looks like you've been enjoying me for the last 48 hours. You have the freedom to indulge in intimacy as much as you want, anytime and for as long as you want. It's a tempting offer that's hard to resist, isn't it? Josh wants 2 children, a son and a daughter, and I want them to have the same father. And if the first child is a girl, I know he wants a son. Are you ready to keep trying? Yes, until we are discovered. We have to make sure that this doesn't happen. And also, will you be able to behave normally around Josh? It will probably be difficult not to smile, knowing that I will do everything possible to help him become a father, but I believe that I will cope with this. I plan to stay late at work with the girls on Tuesday. What a coincidence that I will also be working late this day. My parents brought the kids at 6:30 p.m. and said they hadn't eaten. I took them to McDonald's, and as expected, they wanted a Happy Meal. After dinner and returning home, Heather inquired about our whereabouts and reproachfully asked why we hadn't called to see if she wanted to join us for dinner. She expressed dissatisfaction with the fact that we did not inform her about the time of our return and did not contact her on her mobile phone upon arrival. In response, I began to defend myself. Heather looked at me and then busied herself putting the kids to bed. While she was busy with this, I started investigating the situation. I learned how to intercept phone calls using a voice recorder and planned to purchase the necessary equipment on my way home from work the next day. I decided to purchase 2 betting lines, not only for my line, but also for Josh's line. I need to contact Carla and come up with a plan. I noticed that Heather didn't take a shower before going to bed. Maybe she took a shower before coming home, or maybe she didn't. Before Heather went to bed, I mentioned that I had an upset stomach and suggested that we make love the next day. At 3:20 p.m. on Monday, my secretary informed me that Mrs. Carla Marvis was expecting me for an appointment. I've instructed Shelley to bring Carla. Carla came in, closed the door, came up to me and kissed me. It's a pity that your secretary is sitting outside the door. If she wasn't there, you could have escorted me to the table. I suggested waiting until 3:30 p.m., when my secretary would go home. She laughed and said she was just joking, but I assured her that I could easily pass the time until then. She rummaged in her purse, took out her mobile phone and handed it to me, noting that she had already written down her number in it. For tomorrow, we agreed as follows. During lunch, I will quickly book a room at the Marriott. I chose the Marriott because the entrance to the room is in a covered corridor, which eliminates the risk of being seen by someone outside. As soon as I book a room, I will contact you and tell you the room number. After finishing work at 4:30 p.m., I will immediately go to my room. Upon arrival, grab a drink at the bar and have a drink before joining me. If someone sees you, they'll think you just stopped by for a drink on the way home. After that, you can come to the room where I will be waiting for you. Sounds like a good plan, doesn't it? On the way home, I'll pick up the items needed to listen to the phones. Actually, I've already taken care of that. I searched the internet and found a way to do it, and I also have a voice recorder ready to use. At that moment, Shelley appeared and announced, "I'm leaving. See you in the morning." After closing the door, Carla quickly got up to lock it. Our sexual intercourse was short and short-lived. We both reached a climax. She noted that this would be enough for her until the next day, but warned me to come ready for a night of passion. Perhaps vitamins will be useful. On the way home, I stopped by the radio station and bought 2 tape recorders and 6 additional cassettes. I decided to leave 1 tape recorder in my office to listen to the recordings. I decided to keep the tapes with the evidence of the affair of the 2 lovers in order to present them to the judge when the time comes for our divorce. When I got home, Heather had already cooked dinner and opened a bottle of wine, which was a pleasant surprise, indicating her loving mood. This was unexpected, considering that she spent the weekend with her lover, engaging in physical intimacy. Her sudden transformation made me wonder if she was a nymphomaniac. Maybe she's just reveling in her husband's ignorance after she's been with her lover? Maybe someday I'll find out the truth. Being close to Heather was always satisfying, and she was always full of enthusiasm. If Carla's praise of my size compared to Josh was sincere and not just flattery, then I can't help but wonder what qualities Heather saw in him that she lacked in me. This is another question that may have to be answered in the future. After dinner, when the children were engrossed in their electronic devices, Heather reminded me that I had work in the evening. She said that I needed to make up for what I had missed the previous evening. I assured her that I would do my best. She always praised me, calling me amazing, but I couldn't help but think about her affair with Josh. Keeping my thoughts to myself, I quietly went down to the basement, found a phone line and connected the recording to it. Heather doesn't leave for work until an hour after me, and I suspect that's when she and Josh will have a chance to talk. It is possible that I am mistaken. Heather has a mobile phone, and they could chat on her work phone while she's at work. But I have a feeling that the phone conversation I overheard was a hint that they communicated while she was at home. That night we made love 3 times, which was extremely rare for us. We usually got intimate 3 or 4 times a week, but we peaked only once, occasionally twice. When we were lying together, the alarm bell rang after the 3rd time. Then Heather asked, Don't you think I might get pregnant? No, I assured her, but I couldn't help but wonder if it had something to do with Josh. Actually, I'm thinking about a vasectomy, so that you stop taking the pills and we'll be safe. Aren't you interested in expanding our family? We had children, Mike and Anna, shortly after the wedding, so we didn't have the opportunity to travel and explore. Now that Mike and Anna are becoming more independent, we are still young enough for this. But having small children complicates the task. In addition, we are now dependent on your income, so leaving work during pregnancy would be financially difficult. I couldn't help but have negative thoughts about this situation, especially since I suspect Heather knew about Carla and Josh's plans to have a baby. Was Heather trying to beat Carla to the birth of Josh's first child? Did she have any problems with Carla, or was she just trying to make a claim against him? Anyway, it made me doubt that I would be able to carry out Carla's plan. It looks like I'm going to have to distance myself from Heather in the near future. And then, an alarming thought occurred to me. Are Mike and Anna really my children? I needed to confirm it. I fell into a restless sleep, consumed by these disturbing thoughts. The day after a difficult night, in the 202nd room of the Marriott Hotel, I shared my feelings with Carla. I do not know what to do, Carla said. Should I talk to her about Josh before she gets pregnant? Or maybe she's already pregnant and is planning to surprise me? Carla listened to me carefully before expressing her point of view. I can't make this decision for you, she said. But if I were you, I would talk to her and make my position clear. I would just say that I don't want children yet, and will use protective equipment until I have a vasectomy. If she gets pregnant, that's when I plan to have a serious conversation. But then we'll have to do a DNA test to determine who the father of the child is, me or Josh. But if I get a vasectomy, it could derail our revenge plan. I suggest we hold off on this until I get pregnant. It will be a failure because I want all my children to have the same father. Let's hope for a better outcome. It's possible that Heather was checking on you. You made it clear that you didn't want this, and maybe that's why she didn't go for it. The only way to know for sure is if she comes to you and reveals the truth. Glancing at her watch, she noticed, we still have several opportunities to help me become a mother. On the way home, I bought a pack of contraceptives. Later that evening, when Heather suggested intimacy, I took out one of them and started putting it on. Why did you decide to use contraceptives? I decided to rely on contraceptives until I have a vasectomy. I have no desire to have more children. Let's switch. I can't stand these feelings. I will use pills and spermicides until I get used to the diaphragm. This way we will ensure complete security. You don't like this feeling, I mused, finishing putting it on. Heather was a virgin when we tied the knot, and I never used protection with her. When did she discover that she didn't like it? And with whom? This situation has only strengthened my resolve to confirm the paternity of my two children. I remembered how Carla found out about Josh cheating with Heather because he used rubber bands during their meetings. Despite this, I was determined to take the test. If you don't have spermicide, I'll use the contraceptives I bought earlier. I will buy a spermicide tomorrow and make an appointment with a doctor to discuss the use of a diaphragm. I don't want you to have a vasectomy. I want to keep this option open in case you change your mind. We made love. After that, I went to the bathroom. When I returned, Heather was already asleep on her side. It's time to go down to the basement and check the tape recorder. There were a few pointless calls, and then, hello? Good morning, my love. Do you miss me? Of course you know I do. Do you want to have lunch today? Yes, but I think our lunch get-togethers will end soon if we don't find a more affordable place. These motel expenses are hitting my family's budget hard. I can't keep wasting it like this. After all, I won't have enough money to provide for my family, and I can't let that happen. I'll think about alternatives. Have you figured out how to get out of the house yet? Not really, but I'm actively trying to find him. I'll keep my fingers crossed. I want to spend more time with you than a short lunch break allows. I feel the same way, my dear. Can we chat tomorrow? Of course. Goodbye. Bye, dear. The very thought of being with Heather after she let Josh take advantage of her made me feel sick, but I managed to restrain myself. It was amazing to find out that my cheating wife not only betrayed me, but also paid the bill for the hotel room. And what will Carla's reaction be when she finds out about her husband's secret phone call? Going up the stairs to the basement, I was sure that Heather would not be able to go outside on Wednesday evening. The next day at work, I took my phone out of my desk drawer and dialed Carla's number. When she answered the phone, I greeted her good morning and then turned on the recording for her. After listening to Josh's message, Carla swore, "When the time comes, I will deal with this scoundrel." So what are the plans for Wednesday? I may have to work late, but I'll wait until the last minute to tell her about it. She won't have time to look for a babysitter. Did you hear that Heather is paying for the room expenses? No wonder, considering Joshy's stinginess. If I'm late at work, I'll skip the card game and we can meet instead. I'll call you tomorrow to clarify the details. During breakfast on Wednesday, Heather asked, "What are your plans for the evening?" I replied, "I don't have anything planned, but what's the matter?" My colleagues discussed the opportunity to have a drink and chat after work. I can't join if you don't look after the kids. It's not a problem. I kissed her and went to work. I booked a room at the Marriott and called Carla as soon as I got to the office. At 4:40 p.m., I informed Heather, who finishes work at 5 p.m., that I would be working late. There are some contract issues with Henderson that need to be sorted out before the morning meeting with Nathan. I'm sorry for the late notification, but I can't leave right now. Please don't wait for me. Love you. Goodbye. Feeling pleasantly tired, I returned home in the evening. Fortunately, Heather was already asleep, because if she hadn't been asleep, I wouldn't have been able to make love to her. Over the next 5 weeks, Carla and I met about twice a week, and always knew in advance what Josh and Heather were doing. In the 5th week, Carla said, "Congratulations, Dad. How about intimacy with the mother of your child?" Josh's reaction to this proposal is unknown, as he has not yet been informed. Carla felt it necessary to inform the child's father about this before telling Josh. She told me, "The only thing we haven't done yet is go on a weekend trip together. Let's celebrate the pregnancy with a trip, unnoticed, so that they don't guess." It's interesting that you mentioned this today. Josh needs to go to San Diego to sort out some business related to his father's inheritance. He plans to visit relatives this weekend and meet with a lawyer on Monday. If you find a way to sneak away for the weekend, we can go on a trip without anyone suspecting anything. I hope I can do it. I picked up the phone and called my brother in Akron. I asked him to call me at home right after I left for work in the morning and tell Heather that I needed to come to him for the weekend on family business. I promised to call him later and explain the situation. He assured me that he would fix everything, and we said goodbye. Turning to Carla, I said, "Now it remains for us to decide where we want to go." The next day, Heather called me literally 5 minutes after I left the house. She urged me to contact Bill immediately, as he needed to discuss urgent family matters with me. She said she would call me back later. I arrived at work and called Bill. I told him that his son Brian needs a kidney transplant, and I need to come over to do a compatibility test. What happened? I explained the situation, and Bill assured me that I could always count on his help. I knew I could count on him because he had a strong dislike for unfaithful spouses. His wife cheated on him, which led to their divorce. Despite the difficulties he faced as a single father after the tragic death of his wife in a car accident, Bill continued to take care of his children. Having successfully settled everything, I called Carla, and we decided to escape for the weekend. I called Arrowhead Lodge and managed to book room 130, which seemed to me the perfect choice. At 2 o'clock, I informed Heather that I was going to Akron by plane. Now I'm going home to pack my things before leaving at 8, and I'll try to arrive at least half an hour earlier to check in. Maybe I'm being selfish, but I hope your kidney won't function properly. I need you to be healthy so that we can grow old together. Come on, Heather. Your words make me believe that you really care about me. Don't you dare doubt me. When I hung up, I couldn't help but think, if only you knew. When I arrived home, Heather was already there completely naked, except for the seductive shoes. She asked if I could find time to be alone with her before leaving, and knowing that I still had a lot of time before my non-existent flight, I agreed to meet with her. Heather was lying on the bed after intimacy, and when I was getting dressed, she teasingly said, "On the phone, you sounded like you doubted my love for you." At that moment I thought, of course I see it every time you cheat on me with Josh. Instead I said, "I know perfectly well how much you love me." Heather replied, "I want you to never doubt my feelings." The weekend spent with Carla was eventful. We made love before going to bed, and in the morning when we woke up we practiced again, after which we went to breakfast. Back in the room, we continued to make love until lunch, then ate, and then returned to bed for new passions. We took breaks by the pool, but in the end we always returned to the room for even more intimacy. Our evenings were filled with dinner, drinks, dancing, and of course, new lovemaking. This routine continued the next day, and even on Monday morning, before we had to break up. We promised to repeat it to each other when we get home. When I arrived, Heather was at work and I went downstairs to check the tape recorder. On Friday morning, Bill called first. Shortly after she hung up, Josh called her. "Did you manage to find time for the weekend? I would love to spend a few days with you without interference." "No, Josh, I haven't found a way to do it, and to tell you the truth, I don't want to look for a way," she replied. "What's wrong? Why?" Josh asked. I just feel guilty for what I did. I love my husband, and he deserves better than a wife who is cheating on him. I was going to tell you that it's over. I have to devote myself to my husband. Heather, we've been making love for almost a year now. How can you claim to love him so deeply and still be with me? Let me clarify, I didn't make love to you. I only had a physical relationship with you. The only person I really make love to is my husband." "You're lying!" "No, Josh, it's true. I love him and try to express my love for him whenever possible. If you really love him, then why did you contact me?" I was overcome with excitement and a sense of awe when I thought about the forbidden act that I had just committed. Coming home and making love to my husband after I was with someone else was exciting for me. It caused such a rush of emotions and liberation that I had never experienced before. Did the thought of giving him a few wet seconds excite you? I have always been faithful and pure in my love for him. Lie, you never took a shower before leaving the motel. I have a travel bag at work that has everything I need for a shower. Bob has never felt the slightest hint of jealousy. No, Josh, I'm going to put an end to this before we're discovered. I love Bob and I don't want to risk losing him. Be grateful that you managed to take advantage of me when I was drunk that first time. Maybe, but you know you weren't drunk the other times. It all depends on your definition of drunkenness. I was intoxicated by the desire to be with Bob after I was with you. I wanted to see if the excitement and passion would remain if I was sober. I let you do it again, and that was the only reason I kept going. We managed not to get caught for a little over a year. But I realized that the emotions I feel for Bob after talking to you are not worth the possible consequences of getting caught and losing him. Enjoy your stay in California, Josh, but please don't contact me when you get back. Goodbye. With these thoughts, I intriguingly turned off the movie and started unpacking my things, ready to focus on work. Around 11 a.m., I called Carla. As soon as I greeted her, she immediately said, "I miss you. Is everything okay?" I confirmed that everything is fine. I suggested that she listen to something. If it was a Friday conversation, then I probably already heard it. It seems to me that Heather started thinking with her own head and realized that she could lose me. What are your plans for the future? I made the decision to stay with her only until the children turn 18, and nothing will make me give up this decision. If she really meant what she said to Josh, it would be easier for her to hold on. But the trust between us has been destroyed. Even if she breaks up with Josh and they never meet again, how can I be sure that in the end, she won't want to experience the joy of cheating and start looking for another man? I could suggest that if she really broke up with Josh, then we could live together. But I won't give her a second chance. Unfortunately, I can't bring myself to do it. I need to find a way to monitor her actions without revealing that I have a wiretap on my phone. As I said, trust has been violated. She knows I'll let you know if I find out anything, so I have to be careful. If she tells Josh, it might complicate things. Are you suggesting that we continue in the same spirit? We overheard their conversation. They managed to get out for a little more than a year, and we managed to get out for only a couple of months. They owe us another 10 or 12 months, plus there may be fines and interest which will further increase this period. I want to get what's coming to us. Carla and I continued to meet about twice a week until the 7th month. She wanted to continue, but her belly had grown so big that I couldn't make love to her without making her uncomfortable. The ultrasound showed that Carla is expecting twins. She welcomed the birth of 2 adorable girls. As she expected, Josh was hoping for his son. 2 years later, Carla became pregnant again, and another ultrasound confirmed that it was a boy. We continued our close relationship until the 8th month of pregnancy, after which we decided to break up. We both knew that we were unlucky, and if we were caught, Carla would be left to raise 3 children alone, and neither of us wanted that. During our last meeting, Carla mentioned that the plan was to take revenge on the cheater by forcing him to raise other people's children. In order to carry out this plan, she had to stay married to him. Since Josh got a promotion that forced him to move to another city, he has lost touch with Carla. Despite this, I often think of her fondly. It's been 6 years, and as far as I know, Heather hasn't talked to anyone else, at least according to the phone conversation. On the other hand, I didn't know that she and Josh had been doing what they were doing for over a year. There is a possibility that she will become more cautious and stop using her home phone for illegal conversations, but so far, I have not noticed any signs of this. She showers me with affection and makes me reconsider my decision to leave her when the children are old enough. Mike is 4 years away from turning 18, and Anna is 5. I can only wait and see how events unfold. While I was sipping my drink due to budget constraints, a well-dressed man in a suit suddenly offered to buy a round for an empty bar. He mentioned that the next day was his 2nd anniversary of the divorce and asked if I had already eaten. I explained that it was the end of the month and my salary would be given only on Tuesday. Not satisfied, he insisted on paying the bill and told me to order whatever I wanted. Grateful for his kindness, I shook his hand and invited him to join me while we waited for our orders. Over the next hour, he shared with me an incredible story that he called Nuclear. Although I never found out his name, I have no reason to doubt the veracity of his story. While he was telling his story, I sat at the table, mesmerized by his words. My wife was preparing for a girls' weekend with her friend Bonnie, but my thoughts were elsewhere. Kristen came out of our bedroom looking like a model ready to go on the runway. The jewelry, hairstyle, makeup, and outfit were perfectly matched. Dragging a large suitcase behind me, I noticed that she had packed a lot of clothes for one night with Bonnie. She joked that they girls always overloaded their suitcases. Before she left, I asked her to stay for a minute to show her the hilarious letter I received that morning. Glancing at her expensive watch, she realized that she had only a minute left. Bonnie expected her to pick her up at 10 o'clock sharp. Turning the laptop over to her friend, She showed her a letter that directed her to a website dedicated to cheating wives. The letter stated that she needed to look at cheating wife number 131. By clicking on the link, she confirmed that she was already 18 years old, and a menu appeared on the screen. Kristen tapped her shoe impatiently as she scrolled down to number 131. The title page opened, on which the profile of the cheating wife was presented. Kristen's name was written in bold black letters under the title, followed by a brief biography. Kristen, 30, has cancer and lived in a luxury condo in Chicago. She's been married for 8 years, has no children, and worked out with a personal trainer 3 times a week. Kristen invited viewers to click to see her naked body. A window appeared with the inscription, "Click here to enter." Quite by chance, the name of the cheating wife was also Kristen. I looked at my wife, who bore the same name as her 30-year-old self, Cancer, who lives in a beautiful, cozy apartment and has been married for 8 years without children. She looked pale and scared, staring at the computer screen. "Honey, should I press enter?" I teased. She took a deep breath, panting like an asthmatic in trouble. "Well, Kristen, my wife with the same name as when she was 30 years old, lives in a beautiful apartment and has been married for 8 years without children. Should I press the login button?" My voice trembled, bursting from the depths of my soul. Tears welled up in my eyes as I leaned closer to her. A picture of my wife appeared on the screen, beautiful and naked. Kristen was silent, overcome by nausea and unable to speak. I also fell silent when she finally managed to whisper, "I can't believe this is happening to me." And then another image appeared on the screen. "Wow, she looks so much like you, Kristen. Even her dress is the same as yours. Remember? I bought it for you on our 8th wedding anniversary," I remembered. "Her bedroom is also similar to ours. The same curtains, bedspreads, furniture. What a coincidence." The following photos showed her taking off a designer dress and casually throwing it on the floor. Standing in nothing but a lace bra, garter belt, stockings, and high-heeled shoes, she radiated confidence. "Darling, do you remember how I surprised you with the same underwear?" I reminded her. "Exactly the same. I went so far as to buy silk stockings in Paris so that she could wear them under her dress. But you rejected them, saying that only an escort girl could wear such a thing. It looks like the woman in the photos is really an escort." Kristen collapsed into a puddle of vomit and curled up crying. Her dress was pulled up, revealing that she was wearing panties, which only made me even more angry. I put the laptop in front of her, demanding that she watch. The next 12 frames showed a striptease. Kristen slowly took off every piece of clothing. She could only smile as she scrolled through close-up photos of her spread legs, each of which depicted her body in great detail. She couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy towards her husband, who was lucky enough to have such intimate photos. It made her think about how she once called someone a scumbag for wanting to take a picture of her in her underwear. "Hey honey, look at this," she called, marveling at the remaining 54 photos of the woman in the pictures. She was disgusted to find a video of a woman getting carried away with an adult toy. Kristen hugged herself tightly, feeling disgusted. The break-in made a chilling sound, and it took her at least a minute to stammer, I can explain." But before she could continue, I interrupted her, telling her to shut up. Evidence of her infidelity appeared on the screen. Another photo of my naked wife. Feeling betrayed, I demanded to know who she was cheating with while she was trying to catch her breath, coughing uncontrollably. Saliva dripped from the corners of her mouth as I angrily asked for the name of the man who ruined our marriage. In a weak voice, she confessed, "Jim or James Bauman?" Furious, I accused her of letting him get into our bed. The table shook as I brought my fist down on it, causing Kristen to scream in pain and pleasure, drowning out the sounds of her own moans on the video. But the woman on the screen no longer looked like the beautiful woman I once knew. She looked disheveled, with disheveled hair and smudged makeup. Her eyes were bloodshot and empty. Her silk designer dress was completely ruined. I reminded her of our prenuptial agreement, which clearly stated that she would get nothing if she ever cheated on me. And now that she's changed, she's going to get exactly that, nothing. I demanded that she leave my condo immediately, calling her a cheater. Kristen fell to her knees, begging for forgiveness and claiming that she had never met the man she was accused of cheating with. But I knew the truth. I found out that someone had sent me incriminating photos of her with another man, just in time to prevent her from meeting him that day. I accused her of planning to sleep with him despite her protests of innocence. I refused to believe her lies, pointing out that she had obviously sent him these photos herself. My anger boiled over when I doubted her intelligence and honesty. She eventually admitted that she had emailed the photos, but it was too late to apologize. "I can't believe you sent such photos to a man you don't even know." "Unbelievable," I said, stunned. "How could he take a naked picture of you in our house, in our bed, if you've never met him?" I demanded. Bonnie took the pictures with my camera. Bonnie, our close friend and bridesmaid, is the same Bonnie who offered to sleep with me in exchange for a job for her husband. And did I accept her offer? No. I told you all the details right after it happened and insisted that you end your relationship with her forever. I warned you that she's nothing but trouble. She's threatening our house. Despite her actions, I still gave him the job at your request because I loved you too much to refuse. But now everything has changed. You killed that part of me. Randy will be out of work on Monday morning, and I won't care if they lose their house. I will also tell him everything. She ruined our marriage, and now I'm going to ruin her." Kristen screamed, not knowing what she was doing. "Give me your camera, laptop, and phone," she demanded. "I've never spied on you before, so I don't know your passwords. Write them down so that I can confirm your innocence. If I find any evidence of your infidelity, you will fly out the door, and I will send these photos to everyone you know, your parents, siblings, friends, anyone with an email address. I will not rest until there is nothing left of you that I can despise." When a new message came on her phone, I couldn't resist reading it out loud. "Checked into room 418. How soon?" I raised an eyebrow, knowing it wasn't Bonnie. She confirmed my suspicions by shaking her head. I asked, to which Kristen hesitated before reluctantly admitting, "At the Palmer house." "But don't say a word, not a single syllable. Nothing." I looked at her sternly, demanding that she clean herself up and take a shower. "Maybe if you use enough soap, shampoo, and hot water, I won't be disgusted at the sight of you," I said coldly. After urging her to reflect on her actions and the damage done to our marriage, I removed her to the bedroom so that she could wait until I decided if I wanted to talk to her. When I was sitting at the dining table scrolling through photos of my naked wife on my laptop, she appeared in faded jeans and a voluminous sweater. "Kristen, get out of here!" I called, still digesting the betrayal I had just revealed. Kristen was wearing lace-up tennis shoes and gasped at the sight of a photo of her playing with an adult toy. "This is all I could find before our wedding," she said, and her voice trailed off as she looked at the floor, looking pathetic without makeup and with swollen red eyes against a background of colorless skin. "Thank you," I said. "This is the first smart thing to do today. Now please, sit down. I compared the photos on your camera with the photos on your webpage and they match." I saw Bonnie's reflection in the mirror, which confirmed my suspicions. Her eyes briefly met mine as she delivered some news, both good and bad. I contacted my team of IT specialists, whom you always make fun of, and when I informed them of your actions, they readily agreed to help. It dawned on me today that they don't like you because of your condescending attitude towards them. They saw this as an opportunity for revenge. I can only imagine that they are now enjoying the photos they found of you. You may not care about being exposed as a hooker, but I care about my reputation in this community. They assured me that the site would be deleted soon. It is shocking that more than 250,000 people have seen your nude photos. The main problem is poachers, shady webmasters who steal images from one site to post on their own. The photo of you in a compromising position seems to be the most popular. It has appeared on more than 100 different sites. But since your personal information is not listed, I decided to leave it as it is. Their talents were needed elsewhere, and at that moment my computer screen went black. Kristen expressed her gratitude, saying that she had read all the letters and determined that Bonnie was behind the affair. She mentioned that she feels betrayed because of the hurtful words written to the predator on the couple's website. Overwhelmed with emotion, she couldn't finish the sentence as tears streamed down her face. Her mouth froze, but the words wouldn't come. I buried my face in my hands and whispered, "I thought you loved me." Kristen fell to her knees, buried her head in my lap and sobbed, "I love you. I love you more than anything in the world. I can't imagine life without you." I carefully lifted her face and said, "I've read every word you've written." She had the kind of look I'd only seen once, when I had to tell my mom the news of my father's death. Her physical presence remained, but everything that defined her was gone. We were silent for a while, until a new message came to her phone from Bonnie saying that she was having fun. I showed it to Kristen, but she didn't say anything. I got up and threw the phone against the wall with all my might, smashing it to smithereens. I sat back down, pulling out a chair for Kristen. I didn't want her to touch me again. The guys hacked into the computer of this home wrecker and found a cache with explicit photos of her with someone other than her husband. It turns out that over the past 2 years, she has entered into at least 3 extramarital affairs with men she met on a website for deceived spouses. Her actions should have consequences. I sent compromising photos of her to all her friends, family, colleagues, everyone. I'm wondering if her husband will come to work on Monday so I can fire him. As a precaution, she saved explicit photos of everyone and messed up her computer, rendering it useless for anything other than a doorway. I hesitated for a moment before typing another message. I told the guys to turn off her phone too. Revenge did not bring me joy. Instead, I was overwhelmed by violent emotions, and I closed myself in for a few moments. Kristen was sitting quietly, leaning on a chair. When I calmed down enough to speak, I told them that the guys had also hacked James's computer. They found an email in which he bragged to several men about his plans to install cameras in a hotel room to film himself with a new partner. He almost made you an unwitting internet sensation. Karen gasped and began to spit, although there was nothing left in her stomach. But wait, that's not all. James also admitted in the letter that he lied to you about the vasectomy and did not mention that he had a fresh sore of herpes. His intention was to infect you with an incurable venereal disease and potentially impregnate you this weekend. What a charming guy, I said sarcastically. Karen began to sink into a chair, gasping for breath. I picked her up and carried her to the sofa, laying her gently on it. When she came to her senses, cold splashes of water fell on her face. Handing her the glass, I helped her sit down and take a sip. "Please let me pass away, I'm too stupid to live," she muttered. I fought the urge to hug her and assure her that everything would be fine. Instead, I continued. The guys sent emails with a malicious worm to computers that were supposed to be your audience. None of them will be able to watch anything on these devices anymore. After that, I approved the scorched earth approach to this hole. Photos were found on his computer showing him during intimacy with 3 other women. Despite the fact that the women looked haggard and aged, it didn't bother him at all. No wonder he tried so hard to convince Kristen to betray their marriage vows. Kristen felt stupid and repeatedly expressed disbelief at her own naivety. On top of everything else, This supposedly world-traveling businessman was actually just an assistant manager at a hardware store in a small town in Wisconsin. It was shocking to learn that he is also a deacon in his church and a member of the school board. Kristen let out another groan when she realized that the lists of members of his church and the CCP were available online. As a final blow, they created a PowerPoint presentation with a country song about infidelity and sent it out to everyone. His secrets will soon be revealed in Wisconsin. They also destroyed his computer and phone to erase all incriminating photos of Kristen. But the most pleasant moment in their revenge was the insidious plan they came up with. These people hacked into the credit card company's system to report the theft of the idiot's cards, including the one he used to book a love nest. I don't want to know all the details of their actions, but there are several warrants for his arrest for identity theft. According to the warrants, he should be considered armed and dangerous. Most likely he will be arrested soon, and I hope that he will resist. People assured me that this would be the main story on the evening news. In addition, his 15-year-old SUV was towed away for unpaid parking fines. Judging by the calls his wife is receiving, it is unlikely that he will be released on bail in the near future. Fortunately, they don't have children. I almost feel sorry for his wife for being married to such a disgusting man who tried to ruin my marriage. But I do not regret any actions that I took to protect the woman I love from a predator. I swear to take revenge on any man who tries to steal my wife, and I will not rest until he is destroyed. Kristen smiled faintly and asked timidly, "Does this mean that I'm still your wife?" But her hope was dashed when he replied, "No." Her face lost color and she sank back down. "I'm not going to lie to you," I continued. "It will take a long time for me to trust you again, maybe even longer than I have left to live." "We are going to divorce," I announced, and my tone softened with a note of sadness. "But out of love for you, I won't use your fame any further than it already is." Tears welled up in Kristen's eyes, and she asked in a trembling voice, "Do you still love me?" "I love you as much as I did the day we exchanged vows, but now the bitterness in my heart outweighs the love I once felt." Our marriage ended 2 years later. Kristen never heard from Bonnie again. I didn't fire Bonnie's husband from his job. During the divorce, Randy gained custody of their 10-year-old son, and, with the assistance of his mother, established himself as a capable single father. Randy also excelled at work and became a loyal member of my staff. James spent 2 weeks in the Cook County Jail before the misunderstandings were cleared up. His ex-wife never visited him or answered his phone. After being released, James lost his job, wife, and home. Unfortunately, he has become a target for some people who spoil his loans and use his identity. He now lives in a battered SUV that seems to attract traffic fines and uses it to deliver newspapers in the early morning. It is unknown if he knows that his rights have been suspended. The question remains, who sent me this letter? With some help, I was able to find out the truth about Kristen's suspicious behavior. After noticing her secretive actions for several weeks, I feared she was having an affair. Swallowing my pride, I turned to my IT experts for help. They installed spyware to monitor her actions and discovered in time the plans that another person was making for her. We have carefully studied her email and discussed our next steps. A well-thought-out strategy has been developed, but the details of its implementation should remain secret. Thanks to the skill of IT experts, Kristen's compromising photos were not posted on the internet. Instead, they created a fake website on my laptop to lure another person. But despite the successful deception, Kristen decided to leave our marriage anyway. I was never going to stop her.